Okay, the macaroons, lava macaroons. Good afternoon snack. A couple of nights ago, I was getting ready to cook supper, and I looked in the cupboard and I noticed the cake mix that I was outdated at the end of October, and I really needed to mix it up. And I had already put half a cup of oil in one of those plastic bowls that I used to bake with. I got them for $1 the other year somewhere. I always had a great big, I guess it's a ceramic bowl. My mother before me had one. My grandmother had one. I bought one for one of my friends one year when she was getting married. They're beautiful bowls, but they're heavy. And somehow when you use them, you just don't feel like you can get your baking done, because it's just, oh my, bending down and getting out the bowl, and I really want to, and I really try, and so I was doing pretty well with it. But after, everything in the summer, it got packed away in a box, and oh my, it's just been so much nicer since. So I took out the bowl, and I had put in the half a cup of oil, and I was going to make molasses cookies, a favorite of my husband's father, of my father-in-law. I used to make them for him when he was sick, first when we were married. But my daughter had wanted gingerbread cookies. When I made the Halloween shortbread cookies, she said, but I really love gingerbread cookies. And she came home with her father one day from the store and had a pack of those Christmas gingerbread cookies. So I said, I think I'll make some gingerbread cookies, because the boxed ones are almost gone. And I started to get the cooking ingredients out for gingerbread cookies, and I looked at the clock, and there just wasn't that much time left before supper, so I grabbed the cake mix box just to check, and sure enough, the cake mix used half a cup of oil also. So I poured I didn't take a video, I don't know, I guess I was just too busy or distracted or something that day, too much going on in the subconscious, I guess, and I wasn't verbalizing it to see what it was. I was trying to get dessert cooked. So I put the cake mix in with the oil and mixed it up. And as I had been looking in the cupboard for the ingredients for the molasses cookies, I noticed that I also had 2 bags of coconut that had become outdated. And although coconut isn't one of my daughter's favorites for some reason, she has eaten coconut in cookies for many years in different sorts of cookies. Especially if it's mixed in. So I took the 2 bags of coconut and I just put it right in with the cake mix and mixed it up, and it smelled like macaroons. My grandmother used to make macaroons. I used to make special macaroons with cream cheese and put Hershey's Kisses on the top, first when we were married and through Emma's childhood. I haven't made them as much in the past couple of years. They're a little bit more expensive to make with the cream cheese. I usually make now cookies out of what's left in the cupboard. I always have a bit of flour and sugar and on hand, anyhow. And so I poured the coconut in and mixed them up, and they looked like my grandmother's homemade bits and bits macaroons from years ago. The mixture looked just like it. I said, so why don't I just try that as a drop cookie? So I dropped it on the baking stone, on the baking sheet with a bit of parchment so it wouldn't burn, but I used my baking stone that day. And I had a quarter bag of chocolate chips left from something or other, so I put a chocolate chip on the top to mimic the Hershey's Kiss on the more expensive macaroons, and put them in the oven and watched them until they lightly browned, until they turned golden. And they're very chewy. Very lovely cookie for things that are almost ready to be thrown out. Well, that was the first cookie that I made the other day. And that was the day that I had intended to make chicken soup and buns and just grilled cheese sandwiches or something along that line, using some of the chicken that we have left over from Tuesday's chicken dinner. In the end, I cut the chicken up and dipped it in flour and milk wash and made chicken nuggets with supper last night, and used some leftover macaroni with some spaghetti sauce in it and a bit of cheese on the top from Monday night's macaroni that had some plain noodles left over when I had cooked too much for the macaroni and cheese pan. So in the end, anyway, I made some tea biscuits, another favorite of Emma's when she was little. I used to make these when I was single with cream turkey or chicken, which is a delicious, delicious recipe that they used to serve at the United Church bake sales when I used to attend them when I was younger. It's not a favorite of Chris, so I don't cook it anymore. It's a perfect recipe for leftover chicken. But one of the things I still use is a recipe for tea biscuits that I would serve the cream turkey over top of. And this is a recipe I think that I got in a cooking class or something somewhere along the way in school because it uses metric measures. Tea biscuits. Ingredients: 500 milliliters of flour, which is 2 cups. 20 milliliters of baking powder. I usually throw in about a teaspoon. 15 milliliters of sugar. I don't use the sugar. 5 milliliters of salt. I don't always put salt. 125 milliliters of margarine, a half a cup of margarine. 175 milliliters of milk, about 3/4 a cup. I start with about a half cup, and if it gets too gloppy, you can add more flour, or you can just not use quite as much milk in the first place. Then you combine flour, baking powder, sugar, and salt. Cut in the margarine, which means just put the margarine in and use a fork or something, or your hand if you've washed your hands really well, or if you wear those cooking gloves, and blend it all together. If you're using block margarine, cube it first because it can be a little bit harder, or you can make it let it sit to come to room temperature. I just use Pastel, so it blends up pretty easily. Add milk all at once. Turn out onto a lightly floured surface and knead gently. Just throw some flour on the top of your countertop if you've cleaned it really well, or on the top of a baking pan that you've cleaned, or on the top of a cutting board. Use a rolling pin and roll out until about 1 to 2 centimeters thick, half an inch, or just pat down with your hand. Use a cookie cutter or the floured rim of a glass and cut out some circle shapes or any sort of shape that you'd like your tea biscuits to be, your tea buns. Bake at 450 degrees in a preheated oven, which means set your oven to 450 degrees and wait till the light goes off. I still do mine at 350 degrees just because I'm used to cooking at 350 degrees, and it works fine, until lightly browned, about 10 to 12 minutes, so keep an eye on them.